Fun really isn't something one considers when bringing balance to the universe. But this does put a smile on my face.
I know that Thanos said that, but are you sure that's not also what Kevin Feige said when Marvel finally got the film rights back to their characters?
So true, so true.
Yeah, that was about like 20 years ago. Now that Disney, I know they own Marvel, now they bought 20th Century Fox, who had the final film rights to the characters of the Marvel Cinematic, well, at least Marvel Comics, finally has them together. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So, hi, welcome to Uncritter Reviews, an episode of After the Credits on Uncritter Reviews. This is Tyler from Uncritter Reviews.
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
Yes, and this is our review on Avengers Infinity War. Now, it's hard to believe that the Marvel Cinematic Universe started about a decade ago with Iron Man, and now has become pretty much a juggernaut in the movie industry.
Absolutely. The juggernaut in a lot of ways.
Yeah, not that My Way Entertainment parody dub.
Oh, right, yeah, absolutely.
I would love to see that juggernaut show up in the MCU. That would be amazing.
It would.
Yeah, alright, so basically the plot to Avengers Infinity War is basically about a man named, or actually alien, known as Thanos, played by Josh Brolin, who wants to get his hands on all the Infinity Stones that were from creation. Now, the thing is that if he gets all these stones, he'll be able to do whatever he wants throughout the universe and change things throughout. So basically, it's up to not just the Avengers, but the Guardians of the Galaxy to team up and fight Thanos. Now, usually we would take this time to say like who's played by who, but it would take way too long. You already know this by now.
37 minutes later.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like,
Yeah. So, what did you think of Avengers Infinity War, Steven?
oh man, well, I going into this was not sure what to expect because we've had a track record with Marvel of kind of copping out so much on most of their properties and
Yeah, I know,
um
Agent Coulson, the first Avengers movie. Oh wait, he's alive in S.H.I.E.L.D. in that. Pepper Potts might have died? Nah, she's alive in Iron Man 3.
right,
And there's other ones that escape me at the moment, but
like
you...
Civil War.
Yeah,
But,
is one of them gonna die? No, it's, I'm sorry, Tony.
exactly, literally leave a sorry note. And they even brought it up as if like, oh man, we're still torn up about it in their stakes. Gooby, please, you totally by the end of it were over it and it was so clear. Like the premise of this is so ridiculous. But as for this film itself, I really ended up enjoying it. Like
Me too.
I knew from the instant that it began, just from even the music choice they used as the Marvel credits rolled, I thought to myself, we're not hearing any sound. This is good. This means we're going to be serious now.
Yeah.
And sure enough, we
Yeah.
were serious.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of, I like how the Marvel Cinematic Universe logo, we also see a 10 in the logo itself to recognize it's been 10 years since the Marvel Cinematic Universe started.
That was good. I like that. Yep.
Yeah. All right, so I know we have a lot of jokes in our hands and that sort of thing,
Jeez.
but there's a part where Hulk is like thrown somewhere. This is like the beginning of the movie, so it's not a spoiler much.
Not really.
And it's also kind of referenced quickly in one of the trailers,
Mhm.
where I guess there's this beam that teleports Hulk, aka Bruce Banner, to Earth. And I was joking to Steven, like, now streaming Hulk.
It was so good. Just at the time, like on the spot. Now streaming Hulk. Which Hulk? Ang Lee's or not Ang Lee's. Edward Norton or
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana's.
And I'm like, well, they're both disappointments.
I thought that was really funny, but yeah, there were so many good jokes in this, like Star-Lord calling Thanos Grimace.
Yeah, Grimace.
Grimace, yeah.
Oh yeah, my meme pretty much where I showed Grimace and Thanos, and basically my caption was, "Be careful who you called fat in middle school."
Exactly. And I mean, it always kills me whenever I see Thanos, like, even though he's the serious guy, his chin looks like the ridged edge of double bubble gum. Like, if you just take it out of the wrapper and look at it, yeah, that's Thanos' chin. So we're just chewing a bunch of Thanos chips.
I thought it was hilarious in the flashback with when he adopted Gamora when she was a child. Like they're holding hands, and you're like, Barney is a dinosaur.
Yep. With blood of the innocent in the background, just a stark contrast.
The scientifically accurate Barney, if it was a dinosaur.
Right.
If anybody's seen that video,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I gotta say, we should talk about Thanos' lackeys or
The Black Order. A lot of the names are not coming to mind, but Proxima Midnight was the woman, and then Ebony Maw was the alien Squidward.
Yeah. I was laughing still pretty hard inside at 5 minutes after that joke was said.
That was pretty damn great.
And that got the biggest laugh in the theater, too.
It did, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are kind of a bit too many jokes at times, but...
I agree.
From time to time, but I do think they were really good, so they definitely work.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, who are the actors who play the Black Order, which I bet some critics are probably getting a negative review because that is not very politically correct.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, the actors' names, maybe on IMDb it'll say, but...
So was one of them named Shuri? Right there. Shuri, played by Latilla Wright. Ebony Maw, played by Tom.
Oh yeah,
Von
Cull
Blair.
Obsidian. That was the big Hulk guy.
Okay. Cull Obsidian. On-set Groot. Just kind of weird.
Yeah.
Proxima Midnight, played by Carrie Coon. And Corvus Glaive, as played by Michael James Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting the voice that one of the characters had. It kind of, in a way, it reminded me a lot of Roddy McDowall. For those who don't remember, Roddy McDowall was one of the characters that were reoccurring in the first Planet of the Apes movies. He played Peter Vincent in Fright Night, and of course he voiced the Mad Hatter in Batman the Animated Series.
For sure.
Yeah, just kind of his British accent and kind of the way it sounded too definitely reminded me a lot of Roddy McDowall in that. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of characters who are credited pretty high, like Benicio del Toro and Gwyneth Paltrow, even though they were only in the movie for like one scene.
Basically, yeah. Let me just say about the Black Order that, to me, I guess, for all the things this film actually did right, in contrast to the tone of most of the MCU, I will say that the Black Order's handling was expected, but a little disappointing. I'm not going to say what happens to them, but a lot of people expecting going in, well, they're the lackeys of Thanos. That's pretty clear from the get-go, and it's proven in the film. So that was a little disappointing. They definitely did fight a lot, which was good. So they weren't, just sitting in the background the whole time, and then, there was some cheesy one AOE attack that the Avengers do, and kill one at a time or something. But they definitely got, most of them, a fair amount of time to shine. I wouldn't say they overall got next to any development aside from Ebony Maw, which was good because he's overall, I think, kind of one of the coolest. Like the relationship between Proxima Midnight and I'm forgetting the name, but Marvel fans will know and appropriately chastise me in the comments. But basically, they're of course together in this fighting her and her significant other, and they had, I would say, probably aside from Ebony Maw, the most screen time. But yeah, I mean, they did their purpose, and I think most of the time they did pretty well. I will say that Proxima Midnight, honestly, her CG could have looked better. There were moments
at times
with Thanos. I would actually argue with Proxima Midnight it was most of the time. like people complaining about how Steppenwolf looked in Justice League. It's barely better than that in this case. Like the other people, I think they looked pretty good. And there were a couple scenes where Thanos, you could tell they kind of just were hoping that he'd kind of blur in with the environment and you wouldn't notice, and so it wasn't quite as on point. But overall, pretty much the visuals of everyone looked good except for her, and that was a little disappointing because she was around for so much of it. So
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny seeing Iron Man and Doctor Strange in the same room because it's basically Sherlock Holmes and Sherlock Holmes
exactly
finally meeting. And I gotta say, I also liked Stan Lee's cameo as the bus driver
that was
in the beginning of the film. Like, have you never? Come on, you haven't never seen a spaceship before? Yeah. I was thinking to myself of that spaceship going into space. I was thinking to myself of that Limp Bizkit song, "Keep rolling, rolling, rolling." Someone edits it in. But yeah, this movie was just a ton of fun. There was so much action, and the part where Wakanda was under attack, with like they were fighting those various monster creatures, looked like a cross between Goro from Mortal Kombat and one of the Xenomorphs from the Alien movies, in a way. I mean, I was thinking to myself, is this the Phantom Menace with a Gungan shield?
Yeah, it was even blue and everything. Like,
yeah, I was expecting the battle droids to come out of those like spacecrafts because Disney does own both Marvel and Star Wars, so they could have if they wanted to. That would have been pretty interesting.
Yep. Houdini. That would be funny.
No, those aren't the battle droids.
No, I know that. I'm just throwing in other Star Wars characters, but yeah, no, I agree that there was a lot of good action in this, and overall more heavy hitting than most other MCU films in terms of you can feel the impact of the characters in these fights because just of how powerful Thanos is. I still wouldn't say, like Feige was saying that, or maybe it wasn't Feige, but either Feige or the Russo brothers were really saying that they wanted this to be the Darth Vader of this generation. And I see what they're getting at. I don't think it quite hit that much of the nail on the head. Like, maybe come part 2, we'll see, that more of what they're getting at is the case. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. He was still badass. But there were definitely moments of vulnerability that were like, I'm not really sure this is, Darth Vader level, badassity. So...
Well, the thing is that how many characters can you think of can throw a moon?
Good point. To be fair, though, that he did do that entirely with the Infinity Gauntlet. So
yeah, but that was what makes them pretty interesting. I mean, this is a guy in the beginning of the movie, by the way, not much of a spoiler. He takes down the Hulk all by himself.
True.
It's like, damn! Like from Friday with Ice Cube and what's his name? The name just left me. Sorry about that.
Yeah, the guy from The Fifth Element, right?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
He's disappeared. But
right.
Anyway, I'm trying to what I was gonna say, but I will say that besides the mild criticism that Thanos has had, I gotta say this is probably the best MCU villain out there.
Oh, for sure.
That can easily rival. He stands up there with at least Ultron and Zemo.
For sure.
In a way.
For sure.
Yeah, I do think the CG was really good on him, and some people were criticizing it earlier on, and I'm less critical on CGI characters if they're aliens and they don't really necessarily, those characters don't exist, if there's not really a real life reference to reference it.
See,
so,
but to me, like, the fact that you can still pick out, that doesn't look quite right. The fact that happens, period, still to me reflects that there's a problem, and that especially in the case of aliens, you owe it to the audience to make it that much more convincing. If anything, you put less effort into how the humans look because, well, yeah, humans look like humans. So.
Okay. So anyway, I think we should really take this moment to talk about spoilers.
Agreed.
Which will probably be a big chunk of the video, so fast forward to this part if you do not want to be spoiled in that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think one thing I really want to say right out of the gate, something that everyone was surprised about,
Mm-hmm.
and I was surprised and happily surprised, was that Red Skull is alive.
That, I mean, there's been talk about it, of course, being, a possibility and actually likely. Um, in the case of, what happened after the first Captain America. But it was never officially, like, a thing. And now, just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, pretty much the embodiment of death on the planet of the, I forgot what it was called, but
The Soul Stone?
well, the planet where the Soul Stone was acquired, and by the way, it was not Earth. I was kind of surprised by that, but it basically was revealed that, yeah, this cloaked figure was Red Skull. And that was, Tyler and I were just like, what? Like,
And like a bunch of the audience too was like that,
mm-hmm.
which was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Because I was wondering, is he dead? Is he alive? Because it wasn't really clear necessarily if he died in that. I mean, you could kind of make the argument that because the way they showed it in the first Captain America movie, that he might have lived. He got teleported somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I was right that time.
I think he stated, though, in the thing that basically the stone judged him, and basically he was, I forgot how he said it, but it was kind of indicating that he was deceased, but like he's still like an apparition,
Mm-hmm.
and he's cursed to basically guard a stone, but not be able to ever touch it, which was what he wanted to do.
Kind of like
So.
the guardian of the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin in a way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of, I love how the Doctor Strange's cape is like the magic carpet in Aladdin in its personality, which is funny in that. But also, we should really talk about some big besides other big spoiler stuff. Just seeing Thor's big new hammer, which also has like an axe on it too, was pretty cool. And it's like he's a lot more powerful now than he was before.
The Storm Ruler Beta Ray Bill's weapon is effectively his weapon now.
Yeah, pretty much
So.
like being like the most powerful Avenger now. Pretty, if you think about it, in a way. But I gotta say I thought it was really satisfying that Marvel finally had the balls, or rather, in this case, the stones,
Hey.
to to finally kill off characters that we saw not just in the beginning of the movie, but also in
Throughout.
the ending of the movie as well. And there's so many like surprise deaths, like oh no, and that. But at the same time, what was it? I think even Thanos kind of joked like no more, resurrections or whatever.
Right.
Which is kind of like, how Marvel characters seem to die and then they, get resurrected somehow.
Conveniently, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were some crazy twists in this that were very good, and it is about high time that we actually got some major twists like this. And I honestly can't wait to see what part 2 brings us. Like, as can kind of be expected of part 1, part 2 movies, some people may be expecting like a satisfying end, and it's satisfying in the sense of not everything's answered yet, but a lot of people will say, well, that's a cliffhanger, that's bullshit, blah, 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 that don't know what they're getting into with this. So, honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed where they end it, and speculating will be occurring for the next year, I'm sure, until the next one comes out. But.
Yeah, I think people shouldn't overly try to predict a movie because last time they did that with a big movie, we got the backlash to The Last Jedi.
That's true.
I would say, man, what was I going to say? At the end, the post-credit scene was a hint at Captain Marvel.
That's true. Yeah.
Which, by the way, is kind of weird because Captain Marvel originally was the name of Shazam, who's at DC Comics.
It's true.
Which, by the way, is supposed to come out around the same time, I guess, as Captain Marvel, which is kind of odd. And originally she was called Mrs. Marvel or Ms. Marvel.
Mm-hmm. I think it was Ms. Marvel.
Yeah, it's kind of odd if you think about it. But anyway, I think we're pretty much done with spoilers at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing I wanted to bring up about the movie was that about the about Black Widow, and it's funny how in our reviews and that, and also not just with you but also with Luke, sometimes I would mix up Black Widow and Scarlet Witch. Both times it was kind of funny.
Yep.
Like I even when I was editing them, I noticed it. I'm like, I even corrected myself, like Black Widow or Scarlet Witch,
Mm-hmm.
and that. But I'm not the only one, obviously, but I find it really odd that Black Widow has like blonde hair, and I get that
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson is a blonde in real life, but she just looked kind of weird. I think it was kind of the eyebrows in a way too, and I am perfectly aware that one point in the comics that she did have blonde hair,
Mm.
and that so it's like make up your mind, just stick with one hairdo.
Yeah, at this point, it kind of just feels like, but why now? Like, I don't know. It just, I agree that it didn't seem to really overall fit. It was kind of just similar to an Age of Ultron where certain aspects were just thrown in. It was like, why's that in there now? It just is, deal with it. Well, okay. But,
Here's a funny one-liner and make you forget.
right.
But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of one-liners, but this one was like, okay, we're being serious here, folks.
Overall, yeah. I mean, there still was plenty of joking around, and honestly, overall, I think most of them were less cringy this time overall. Because part of that, I think, is due to the fact that Groot has grown up to at least a pubescent stage.
Yeah, teenager.
So he's not like the cutesy, gooey character for all the girls in the audience. Oh, look at you, so cute.
They kept cutting back to way too much in the first act of the movie.
Right.
Well, the second one. But yeah, I do think that the movie definitely delivered on action, and because Black Panther made over $1 billion at the box office, I'm kind of surprised that they didn't go back and reshoot extra footage in a way to kind of like, oh yeah, this movie made so much money, we're gonna try to film more to make more money now.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be fair, I mean, there is a part two. Maybe there will be a lot more in Wakanda, but honestly, based on what we've seen, I expect that the Wakanda part, at best, there may be some reenactments that occur based on things that will not be spoiled, but at best, I think we're definitely going to be moving more towards Thanos' home turf, or with the survivors of this that will not be mentioned, that they will be going to him instead of vice versa.
Yeah.
So.
One last thing I want to talk about before we wrap it up and give our ratings is that with so many Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, is that within this time period, I'm just kind of concerned that the movies may end up kind of like the Universal monster movies of the 40s, because those movies were also the first to ever do cinematic universe and crossover movies.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the ones that came out between 1940 and 1945, there were about a couple of dozen of them within just a 5-year time period.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just worried that maybe too much of a bunch of this stuff at once within a short time period might, in a way, kind of
Oversaturate.
that oversaturate and kind of numb audiences, and they may not have as like a big of impact as they might have.
That's true.
In certain ways.
I've actually heard a lot of people complain who, in general, are at least casual fans of the superhero genre, that even they're feeling a little bit of franchise fatigue in the case of both Marvel and DC, and a couple other things that aren't even necessarily in the superhero genre, but even like giant robots and monster things recently, they feel like that's all they're seeing and they're a little tuckered out of it. And I don't personally subscribe to that yet overall. I do see like, what was it, the darkest that we saw previously?
Yeah, pretty much bargain bin X-Men.
Exactly. And that sort of thing, I go, you know what? Yeah, that's an example of like, get that crap out of here. No, who out of negative 7 people in Arkansas are going to see that? Like, let's be real.
Actually, I think it'd be more like North Dakota because it's probably the least visited state out of all of them.
Probably. And
Yeah.
that's only because they filmed one scene there, probably.
All right.
But
So, what would you give this movie, Steven?
well, let me just say, Tyler, this is definitely. I would overall probably say, if not my favorite, close to my favorite of this third phase of the MCU. And honestly, it probably is. This is the Avengers movie we've always deserved. There have been problems with the first, despite people not wanting to admit it, and the second one, despite it getting a bit too much flack. And this Thanos overall definitely delivered on expectations, and that is so satisfying. The Black Order could have been executed a little bit differently. Some of the battle strategies that happened and the character interactions based on planning to try to thwart Thanos, especially towards the end, that could have been executed a little differently because some of the decisions just got borderline stupid and like, well, why are you doing that? But at the same time, you can tell that there's a deliberate groundwork being laid for the sequel, and it will be interesting to see where that takes us. You can say that makes it for a weaker first installment, but I disagree. I think in this case it really worked for it, and this is definitely the crown jewel of the MCU that has largely been worth the wait. Maybe not 100%, but pretty close to A, B expectation levels. So if I had to give this film a grade for its overall aspects, I feel something in the area of a 90 to a 93% is what I would give this.
Okay, personally, I definitely agree with you, Steven, that, yeah, this is easily one of the best Marvel Cinematic Universes movies ever made. It's easily in the top 5. No question about that. I mean, yeah, at times, I actually felt like the movie is 2.5 hours long, but I easily could have sat there for another half hour because how many stakes there were and also how much action there was. And there's so much really great stuff that was going on with the dialogue and the characters. Really good action, really good CG. And Thanos, finally, we get an awesome villain. And sadly, not just in the MCU, but just this day and age in general of movies, we get very kind of lukewarm villains on quality. But Thanos is definitely one of the best villains I've seen, at least within this decade, of it pretty much being very barren land when it comes to quality villains in movies and that. And yeah, the action, again, was great in certain parts. I haven't seen Black Panther, but I'll try to get around to watching it whenever it comes to home video and such. So, I thought that Hulk should have been in it more, which he wasn't. Was a bit of a disappointment. There's one part that Peter Quill does where I'm like, why did you do that? It was kind of, hair pulling. But overall, I still have to think about this more, but as for Avengers Infinity War, I would give this movie about 3 to 3.5 stars out of 4.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right.
One thing we forgot to mention was the guy next to me on the right. There was this guy who, at the beginning seemed to be pretty hyped to see this movie, and I turned to my right at about, maybe an hour into it, and the mother is asleep. The guy is asleep for a solid 15, 20 minutes.
And was this the same guy who fell asleep behind us when we went to go see The Last Jedi?
I don't know.
Because I remember there was a guy that was behind us who legitimately fell asleep, and there's this drastic dark moment where that one ship light speeds through one ship, and it's really dead silent. We can hear him behind us going.
Yep, you hear just in that moment sawing logs.
That was hilarious. Supposed to be a drastic moment where you can hear needle drop, but you just hear the guy snoring I'm not impressed.
Yep, and he wasn't snoring this time, but he was kind of drooped over, and I said to Tyler, Avengers Infinity Snore.
Which this movie is the opposite of that, by the way.
Correct. Just in the moment, it was too perfect, to not say that. So definitely recommend this one, but that was just a crazy situation of what is with these narcoleptics going into theaters? Like,
Is there something in the seats in that?
yeah.
Leftovers of Bill Cosby?
Oh no, Roofies.
Yeah,
on the
we're recording
go.
this the same day that he was found guilty.
Zip zap zoopity bop bop go to jail.
Alright, so I want to say that, man, if I ever got my hands on the Infinity Gauntlet with all the stones, I could, like, make anything I wanted to and snap my fingers and that. I would just make the Fast and Furious franchise disappear from existence.
Amen. That would be a good first use of the Infinity Gauntlet.
And get rid of all acne.
Yep.
That never existed. Yeah.
If you ever want to defeat yourself too, you could always just be like, I want to create Dr. Manhattan.
Or just make myself Stan Lee. Just pretty much do anything I want.
Right.
Yeah.
You create the writer for the universe.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much be the whoever was typing that Will Ferrell movie, Stranger Than Fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, SpongeBob episode with Doodle, was it?
Yeah.
With like get the eraser.
Me hoy, me noy.
Yeah. So this is Tyler from End Credit Reviews.
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
And we hope you enjoyed this episode of After the Credits on End Credit Reviews. And we hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe.